So welcome to another exploration in the consciousness with the Earth Nouveau Hub. Tanya, great to have you back. Good to have the other ladies here. Let's see who else is going to join us. Today we are going to talk about separation. I'm going to use that idiom that's saying separating wheat from the chaff. Before we go into this, I just want to tell you a little story that I have put together over the last couple of days, and may it be an inspiration, may it be an invitation to look at the signs that we are continuously creating, manifesting even. And then of course the dream time, because this wheat from chaff, this is not something I would normally use, but it came through the consecutive events that have happened. So it's been a couple of when was it? Let's say 2 weeks ago, I had a dream. And in this dream, apart from other stuff, the two things that stood out for me were I was in a Mexican apartment. It was my apartment. And through the wall came a serpent, dragon, worm. I initially thought, oh, it's a worm, but it was actually more than that. And the head was kind of round and had lots and lots of spikes going out. And he just came to me and he started snuggling up to me and kissing me. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a bit weird. And he was a bit, slimy kind of thing. And I thought, no, that's for sure. But I wasn't afraid or anything. And I was just sort of intrigued because those spikes were so strong. And whilst I say he was, coming onto me so strong and, like a cat purring into me, that kind of thing, I didn't get hurt at all. The other thing, which was also interesting, which stood out for me in that room, and then what happened is after he snuggled up and all of that, he just left, and there was no communication with words or anything going on at the time. So I didn't really know what and why he came to me. And then there was also a desk in my dream. But the interesting thing is there was a tilt in the desk, which sort of indicated that this whole room, hi Cynthia, this whole room was actually skewed, and the desk was raised on the left side as I looked at it. So be that as it may, I had that dream, and I shared that dream with Dave Farrow, our mate, And so what does Dave do? He sends me the newsletter with the amazing Klimt's Judith, with the serpent, with the water serpent, the one I actually posted in the hub. So I'm reading this newspaper and really don't understand, I'm not very much, settled in this zodiac jargon. But anyway, it got me to immediately sign up on an esoteric astrology reading with Philip Lindsay. Now, I have this reading and it was amazing, very difficult, but I've transcribed it now. So I'm starting to get, a little bit more understanding of it all. And it's really just lovely, confirming and very potently sort of, I would say reinforcing, confirming my journey until now and my journey that is ahead of me. And he used that phrase, that idiom, separating the wheat from the chaff. Another thing that happened in the last 2 weeks is that I found the pendant of Horus, the Eye of Horus. And I thought, so how is this all connected? And then I started, Googling what the meaning of it all, to get a bit more information. And I found that one website, and they're very, very, it's actually a jewelry website. And one of the things that stood out for me was that the Eye of Horus, it was Seth, the the brother of who killed Osiris, who actually took, in this mythology, took it and separated into 6 different parts that represented the brain, the pituitary gland, and the whole thing. And then as you think of putting all the 6 parts together again, there was a part, it only added up to 98.43 or something percent. And that bit up to the 100% is considered the magic that was missing or is missing in our lives. And that led me to the next level of what we've been actually talking about. We've been talking about imagination. And I've just now looked at that. I'm thinking, we're going to find the IMAGICNATION. The imagination is what we're really needing to look for. And we've started that journey, and we're going to continue on that journey, because that is really something that's part of the eye, the all-seeing eye, that is going to catapult us, that is going to lead us, that is going to show us the way into the next level, into the next era, into that galactic citizenship that we're all talking about, or that we are talking about. So I'm saying that just to see how you can, have one dream, and then from that dream, things just start connecting, like, the web. So many different flies in that web, and you're gonna bring it all together. And then, of course, I started watching. I've never watched Game of Thrones. I've just started watching it now because it's on catch up on our TV here. And one of my favorite, personalities is obviously the Khaleesi, the mother of the dragons. And it's like, yes, so there's my dream. There's, bringing the magic back, rebirthing it, and all of that. And long story short, that was just to say, okay, whatever happens in a dream, whatever signs you have, whatever you have already manifested. Yeah, it's like I do it by finding things find me, and then look at it. What does it tell you? What is the connection? What is the big web that we can look at? And that led me to ask this question today, the separation question, because it's a big thing, right? Talking about separation. And, I'm really wondering, is the separation, is this really this big bad wolf in the room that needs to be annihilated, that we need to get rid of? Or do we have to disrobe the big bad wolf and actually look at it, what it actually is? Can we find our place in the oneness again? Can we appreciate oneness, wholeness, without really looking at separation? And is that not what we've been doing over all these lifetimes? Starting to appreciate the separation, starting to understand it as the gift that it is, instead of saying no more separation. Because as long as we're having this separation phobia and judging the shit out of it, we're not going to get out of it. And do we really need to get out of it? And this is where the new levels of grounding, as far as I'm concerned, come in, because remember, we're multidimensional beings. We can be separated and we can be whole at the same time, right? Separation, inhalation, exhalation. Yes. Now, every single one of us has one mouth to inhale and to exhale. So how can we not say we're separated? It's just ludicrous to say we're not separated. Of course we're separated. Yes, be that an illusion or not. But it feels very real to us. And it's okay, because this is how we are starting, this is how we are experiencing through the level of separation, through the understanding of us being separated, leads us to the wholeness, to the oneness, to the allness.
There's this concept that I've been aware of for many years. I don't know where I heard it, but it's Adam Kadmon, right? The universal man. And each one of us is a little tiny piece of that universal person. And that just made me think as you're talking about the cells in the body, right? Each of our cells have a cell wall and they function, they have their own function, but they're still part of our whole. And if they weren't functioning and working together, the body doesn't function properly. So I see that oneness and wholeness as just bringing more of that community vision and working together, right, as a unit, but still each of us have our own individual functions and parts.
Absolutely.
Just like all those parts of Osiris that were dismembered and scattered across the Nile River Delta by Set.
Exactly. And then
I always thought it was his sexual organs that that were never found, which is why Isis cried and salted the desert. But you know, and maybe that's where the magic was too.
And this is, of course, where Thoth comes in, right? Some say Hathor, brought him back to life. And then, of course, Thoth, who has so many different names and masks and, symbolism anyway. And this is where we're at, to acknowledge the separation in joyful celebration. And at the same time, awaken ourselves back to the oneness. Bring ourselves back, just like Thoth did it with So that bit of imagination that I was saying earlier on, I want to more and more work with that. So it takes a willingness to make it up. We talked about this before. Just like my story, I told you the sequence and everything. I made it up, but there were these pieces, they all came together. These were pieces from the dream. This is, I found, and then the rest I made up. I put it together. Now, this little story is truthful to me. It's my truth. It makes sense to me. It makes literally sense from a mind perspective for me. It doesn't have to make any sense to anyone else. And that's really, really important. And that's part of the sovereignty rules. That's part of that appreciation that, yes, there is a separation in a way, even though we're all feeding into the wholeness. And we are obviously also nurtured by the wholeness. And as a multidimensional being, we can be both. We are literally both at the same time, continuously. It's like that expanding out. As we expand out, we get back into that space of wholeness, that entire infinite beingness. And as soon as we like focusing back in, we can go into that separation, into that individualization. So another thing was in that dream, it was that, that table, that desk I mentioned that was raised on the left side. Now, the way I perceive time from a physical perspective, the past for me is on the left side and the future is on the right. Usually I keep the future to the right. Some people have it to the front. I keep it to the right because I want to be able to have a level of awareness that keeps me looking here. I don't want the future right in front of me because that my intensity would hone by far too much into that future and kill lots of it. So I have to keep it to the past. Now, this table being raised on the left side showed me, as I looked at it, that the first half of my life was very much focusing on the past. I mean, as a Cancerian, very much a water sign, very much working with the moon, with all the memories, with all the old, stuff. But you don't have to be a Cancerian for that, because we're all doing the journey of a karmic resolution. Now, the second part of my life is now more future oriented for me. So, and for me, this was an invitation again. This dream was an invitation to say, where you're not balanced. Are you still focusing on the past, or are you actually focusing more into the future? How can you balance that out? And this is then when I started looking at that. And I only looked at that on my walk today, actually, because I thought, so what is this desk all about, right? And then I realized that that dragon was coming from the future. It was a version of me in the future, inviting me to spend more time in the present to prepare for the future. And also to bring information in from the future so that we in the present can start working with it. Okay, so of course, we all have, lots of people go back to scripts of the past and the scrolls and everything and all that amazing information that is out there. And then there are people that are more focused onto the future. And I used a lot, I'm not necessarily one of those scholars that goes completely and utterly immersed in one subject, because that's just not who I am. But I have certainly done that when it came to the healing of all my emotional bodies, mental bodies, and physical bodies. But now the time for me is to actually work more with my future selves, to bring forth some information, to bring in that era of that Aquarius rising. And of course, this is exactly what we're doing. Yeah. So it's almost been like, oh, these pieces are falling into place for me. At least, I have an overview what's actually happening. Why are we doing this galactic citizenship project, right? And by the way, we've got Jen here now. So she's already started, just on a side note, she's already opened up a nice little, what do you call it, a Google Word file or something, Jen? What's it called?
The Google Drive, where we can all share files and work out of the same file. And so Amy and Martina sent me their email addresses, so I've invited them. You should have gotten an invitation, and anybody else that wants access to it, just email me and I'll email you an invitation to it.
Yes, and then you can start adding, your documents, and then we can start using the documents and just adding within the documents, and then Jen has kindly offered her services to supervise this whole thing. She's a bit of a whiz, yeah.
Project manager skills.
Love it, love it, love it.
And I imagine that's your email that we see at the bottom of your
Yes.
picture there. Yes, thank you.
jenstone990@gmail.com. Okay, fabulous. So anyone wants to speak? I'm done now. Before I bring forth some more ideas. Go, Jen, yeah?
When you were talking, when you were talking about not being afraid to make things up and being able to stand in your own ideas, to me also that was a mastery of non-judgment, right? Because you're letting go of the fear of judgment that anybody else has, or even judging yourself for what you're doing. So I'm always working on non-judgment as well. So I saw that as killing two birds with one stone. And I had another thought too, but it's now left me, so I'll have to think about it again.
It'll come back, yeah. So yes, I mean, that individuation journey that we all have to go through is pretty much, as I said in Dell's shows, that is covering the three selves: the mental, the emotional, and the physical body. And then from there, once we've got that sorted to a certain extent, we can then start merging it more with the soul aspect of ourselves. And we're doing this continuously, simultaneously anyway, yeah. And this is the avatar emergence that we're starting to appreciate more, and our multidimensional living, really. And you know, it's like we talk about it and it seems to be a big concept or something, but if we start looking at the signs and we're really starting to interpret what's going on a daily basis or on a nightly basis, we're realizing, well, we're doing it anyway. Yeah, we already have done it forever, you know. And then there is this there is no longer a conscious need for letting go of separation, because it's a seamless continuation. Expand out, focus in, expand out, focus in, that kind of thing, and then bringing the magic in. So what I want to do is with this chaff thingy, wheat from the chaff. First of all, you obviously all familiar with that saying, right? I had to really I wanted a bit more clarification. So it says here, it comes from the age-old practice of literally separating wheat from chaff. When winnowing, grain farmers wanted to remove all chaff from wheat. In the literal meaning, chaff is the husk around the seed, which one does not eat. In order to eat the wheat, one must remove it. Yeah.
And I've been able to witness this. So my mom is from North Dakota, and they grow lots and lots of wheat in North Dakota, and the growing season is very short, but there's, you know, I mean, now there's big machines that do this, but when the wheat is being separated and from the chaff and the wind is blowing, you'll just see like this cloud flying of these wheat husks flying through the air, and you think, what is that? You know, it looks like a, I don't know, like a swarm of flies, or you know, something from far away, or a dust cloud. But you can even do it yourself in the way that the Native Americans used to do it. Was they would hold, you know, big woven blankets, and they would shake the blankets, and the wheat would fall and the chaff would separate, and so then it would go into the air like that as well.
Fabulous. Fabulous. And of course, you know, we have, you know, the interpretation in a slightly different way, saying, you know, separating the good from the bad. Yeah. There's a church one. What does the church say? What does the Bible say about separating the wheat from the chaff? The wheat, when first threshed, lies in one heap with chaff and straw, and is after we know it to separate it. So the faithful are mixed up in one church with the unfaithful. The persecution comes as a wind that tossed by Christ's fan. They whose hearts were separate before may also now be separated in place. Okay, so that's quite a different kind of, you know, sort of, well, it's not different, but it's obviously the meaning, the energy behind it is slightly different. It very much comes from this place of good, the bad, the faithful, the unfaithful, you know, and things like that. Now, the magic, the imagination that we're going to do now is we're going to look at that idiom from our own perspective. So when you think of the wheat, separating the wheat from the chaff, what does that look like? When you use yourself in this metaphor, are you the wheat? Are you the chaff? Are you everything? Get a sense, get a picture in your mind's eye, get a picture. What does that look like? Forget what the connotation is, forget what the meaning of this whole thing is. Just look at yourself as that wheat in its entirety. What does that look like for yourself? And just give those images a couple of minutes to think about it. And then anyone who wants to share that, to shout out, because it's going to be so interesting. Everyone has a different representation of that.
What starts up for me is everything that is me is the wheat. and everything that I carry that is not me, that somebody else's, somebody's projections, whatever's going on in the world that day, like that's the chaff, and that's what's floating away in the clouds, like. And then just what's me is what's in the wool blanket.
Mm-hmm.
Tanya's description.
Okay. So when you are separating the wheat from the chaff, what is that? You just explained, you just told us what that looks like. So what does that actually mean then?
Getting down to my essence of self and losing anything that's not necessary for me.
Mm-hmm. Does anyone know what the value of chaff is? Because remember, everything in nature, everything in this world has a value, a purpose. What does this chaff actually do? And I haven't looked it up, but I can only think of one thing. Anyone has an idea? Maybe Tanya, did you? Oh, Cynthia, yeah.
Well, I mean, it can be used for feeding animals. It can be used for like a ground cover to keep the weeds down. I mean, there's a lot of different things you can use. I mean, it's essentially straw, right? So if you think about wheat, it's the wheat itself, you've got the stem, and then the wheat itself is about this big, and there's a number of kernels of wheat that grow within that seed. I've went and picked it out of the field and chewed on it, and it tastes like bread, really. But it's there's a lot of, it's like getting a seed out of anything, right? The wheat itself. I mean, you can say, okay, look, there it is growing in the field. That's wheat. But then are we really talking about the little kernels inside, right, that have the protein and the bran that we normally eat? Or are we talking about the whole thing? Because the whole stalk of wheat in itself is, is its own beauty. So is it only the kernel that has value?
No, everything has value. It can be recycled. It just may not be what needs to be kept for that purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Cynthia, you've got something as well.
Right. Well, my understanding about the chaff is that it's partly a protective mechanism for the wheat itself. And then of course it's kind of dismissed with the process. So, to me, that's very interesting because, the protective layer is so valuable, but then when it's released, I don't know, I really like that analogy. Protection and then release, protection and then release. And I love the image of it all just flying through the air, like insects. I mean, it really resonates with me. Like sometimes you just have to let all that stuff go, and then harvest it again, and then it all happens again. I don't know, I love that image. And one of the things that I love with the image is the wheat germ. That little tiny, very nutritious, teeny nugget inside. I love, for some reason, that image is the heart of the wheat, right? So, yeah.
Fantastic. So this is interesting, isn't it? Because yes, we are discarding it. The wheat is discarding it. We are letting it go and using it for other things. We are, recycling it for other things. So it's got a value for other things once the wheat is grown. But it's got a value before the wheat is grown. It's a protection for the wheat to grow. Now, how does that reflect, when we look at our conditioning and imprinting and all of that, that we, at the end of the day, like Jane says, very easily not easily, but we're letting it go. But at the stage, we're not letting it go necessarily at the age of 2, right? Because we don't even know we have it at the time until we've actually grown and worked all our issues out. so that we can let it go, right? And see it fly away.
And how Cynthia described that was, to me, that sounded like what you were talking about earlier too, Martina. Growth and then going back within, growth and then going back within. So you have that protection and then you let it go, and that protection and let it go. So I saw those two in parallel.
Exactly.
Well, and it really made me think about your conversation that you were having with Dale on the Talking Stick show, about as we're going through our journey, earlier in our journey, right? There's so many people that really need to hold that bubble of protection, whether they're empathic or, just like learning now how to be multidimensional, learning how to open the heart, learning how to stay grounded in the body, that they're in the beginning of that journey, we need that layer of protection so we can understand what is us and what is not. Yeah, and then as we get more, I don't know, more awake and more aware and better at maintaining our own energy, it's not as much about protection as it is about just holding your sovereign space.
And as we're exploring this, I'm just thinking, how race amnesia has served its purpose in an energy that planet was in. Because if we would have come in without all our memories intact, just like that, we would have been like an extra interdimensional, which we are anyway, but from another, let's call it otherworldly as such, not being able to deal with all that emotional stuff that's going on here. So those layers, those imprints, those layers of conditioning and everything that we are shedding have served the purpose, just like the chaff served the purpose for the wheat to grow. And there is no emotional hang up of the wheat having a chaff around it or not. So it's not even an emotional thing. It's just innately the way this earth has been created to give that kind of protection and that support, that almost nurturing in a way. But then again, we don't think of the conditioning as a nurturing, but what if we could? What if we could? And then as we go along, as we grow, as we mature emotionally through the work that we do, we can start shedding it all. Now, we're shedding the chaff. Now, Tanya just said, what do the people do with the chaff? They feed it to the animals or make something and maybe schnapps out of it. I don't know what they do with that.
Make bricks.
Yeah, maybe that. Yeah. It's also that our conditioning, our learning, everything that we have learned, I consider that the chaff, everything from the conditioning, everything that we are those Rapunzels, the straw into gold, right? Isn't that the story where she sits and spins the straw into gold? That's what we've done. Our chaff, our conditioning, our imprinting, we have turned it, alchemized it into gold, because now we can teach it. Now we can celebrate it, and things. Now we can draw it. We can that. I didn't even think about that. That's cool. So go.
I was going to say, with the release and then the release and the value, as you were saying, and then we're going to create gold out of it. To me, what comes up is that, oh, that's right. The honor of my past serving my present, right? Like, oh, that what I went through and, that challenge or experience. And they're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm spinning it into gold because I need that experience for now. That was a beautiful image that you had.
Power of imagination.
Yeah.
Because that goes far beyond the critical faculty. that goes straight into the cells. As you say, you can feel it, you can perceive it. And you know, you said, Cynthia, you said you did it for yourself, and yes, but not just for yourself. You did it for everyone in one degree of separation, right? Because they've been witnessing that. This is where the oneness comes in. Individuation journey, there is no separation. You are doing what you're doing, and everyone is watching. And this is the thing. I mean, we are being watched from otherworldly beings because of that. They are seeing the gold. And yes, you know, we have also been harvested. That gold has been harvested from us too. Yeah, I appreciate all of that, you know. But at the end of the day, it's all part, you know, where we have to say, well, you know, we've done that too. We are them too. So we are harvesting ourselves. So maybe we need to break that little cycle or big cycle, right?
Yeah.
And what breaks the cycle? The joy behind that work, that, you know, sense of celebration, and the capacities of starting to really see the value in everything without being goody two shoes. This is the one thing, you know, talking to Dale the other day, I realized, you know, I've never been a light worker. I've never done that journey of light work, blah, blah. I've never done that because I came straight from, you know, self-development into multidimensionality, you know, when I was, so I never got into that. But so for me, everything now is just a celebration and a recalibration. So separation, recalibration, extrapolation, all of that is all connected to the separation. So do we need to annihilate it, or do we just celebrate it? And at the same time, always go beyond it and look at it, use it as a new form of grounding. Forget the feet, guys. You don't have to grow new feet. You have your feet. Yeah, you are grounded because you got a body. Now, what else you got? Expand out. Go multidimensional, go infinite, come back in, become finite, whilst you're still infinite at the same time.
Oh, I just have to say my legs are like moving around. I'm like all this energy now. It's like, whoo, I'm swinging my legs and I'm like, what is happening? It's like I can feel all of this in my mind and heart, like everything's coming together. Like when I did the wheat, like as a kid, I'd pick the grass, the wheat grass or whatever, and I would fling it like you're talking about, like just fling it and watch it fly. Well, when we did the visual, it's like I did the same thing and let all the pieces fall because I need all those pieces. Like those are pieces of me, almost like what Jen was saying. I didn't separate them out. I don't know what they're for, but I know that they're part of me.
Okay.
You know? And I saw, you know, like they're all there for me. Everything's there for me. That piece of wheat that I just separated and did that with, and it's almost like they're all going to be used, not used, recycled, or not recycled, but what's the word?
Alchemized.
Alchemized. Yeah, into something. But I don't know what yet. I feel like that's what's happening right now for me.
So when I look at this sweet chaff idiom, what comes up for me is a tree. I'm the tree. And separating the wheat from the chaff is for me the tree shedding its leaves, growing back the leaves, having different fruit. One day I'm an apple tree, the next day I'm a cherry tree, that kind of thing. And sometimes when I look at it, oh, there's this, I don't know if you have this. There's something called in German, it's called Schlaraffenland. Do you know Schlaraffenland? I don't know what it's called in English. I'm sure there's one of those things where you go, it's a country by itself. It's a place where you walk in and then you have sweets growing on the trees, and, you know, everything is food, and everything is, you know, nurturing and fun and that kind of thing. And I always, when I remember looking at that, I always saw a tree, and that tree was just like, it had everything on it. Every branch had something different. I've always seen myself like that, you know, everything growing on just on one tree, nice, you know, strong tree trunk. And then that. So for me, that separation of is also a little bit what Amy says and what everyone says. It's a letting go. It's a letting go of what doesn't serve anymore and a regrowing. It's that continuous generation, regeneration, orientation, reorientation. And isn't that what we do in our lives, right? I mean, who has had just one job, one career, you know, one partner, you know, that kind of thing. So we always go from checking new things out. What's next? Outcreate, that kind of thing. So yeah, Lana.
Can
Lana.
I
Of course.
so I agree with all you guys were saying, but when I was having a visual, I had several visuals, and one of them that I did have was that the chaff from the wheat. When I look at it, what is the chaff? What represents the chaff for us as a whole? For me, it looks like the chaff is domination and control,
Okay.
where it was left to grow, and it got so big, and eventually it became summer, and it had to produce wheat. And we, the individuals who are growing and learning and expanding and finding our sovereignty and so on, we are the wheat that is coming out from this chaff now. So it's the separation that's being created now, where the chaff is no more and it can go off and do its own thing. And that's why our universe was created for it. And we, the wheat, will remain and bloom bigger and better and create a whole brand new existence, and the earth will start to bloom again and be what she wanted to be. So that's one of the things that came to me when you're talking about the chaff and the wheat, and a bigger picture, a bigger perspective of what it is. So it's that separation we're in right now. And Andrew talks about the separation of densities. So the chaff is one, and we are the other one. Right? And if you think about it, the wheat are very little tiny bits and pieces, right? So that would represent us individually. And the chaff is one whole big stalk, right? And that represents the whole of domination and control. And that's what I wanted to share there.
Yeah, fabulous. Another way of looking at it. Absolutely. Has anybody had a real symbol, like a tree? I had the tree. For me, it was a tree. You know, me being the tree, basically, and whatever I'm creating being the fruits, my gifts, my capacities, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so bring your symbolism back up in your mind's eye. And we're just going to see how that, we've done a little bit like, this is all called metaphors of movement adapted to the Group Müller way. So we're just going to look how that symbolism, that imagination adapts itself and changes within time and space. So as you bring that up again in your mind's eye, first of all, I just want you to look at where you're actually standing, sitting, lying. What kind of space do you find yourself in as that particular symbolism, metaphorical representation? And just see what the mind conjures up there, the mind, the imagination. And then from there, I want you to just now take one step. Even if you don't have feet, just consider yourself moving forward for a step or two. And then get a sense of how that internal representation changes. Does it change? Does it create something different as you move? As you bring movement into that representation? Just get a sense of that. And then maybe we'll have a quick chat about that. Having moved forward, how has that changed? Amy, anyone?
Yeah, for me, immediately when you said symbol, I got the octopus. And it was in the ocean, but it can also be on land. And it can also look like one piece. It can bring its legs in, and yet it can spread out. And so when I moved forward, and it also changed color when I moved forward. So it kind of went, I was using my 8 legs, and then I went forward and it went like up and down, single, and changed colors.
Did it feel more grounded? Did it feel more
it felt pliable? It felt more flexible. Not stiff at all. It was not stiff at all, because at the bottom you could see a little feet.
Did it feel more focused?
Well, yeah. Yeah, definitely when I'm out with my legs, I tend to be not so focused because I have so many things going on here and, out there, in here, And then when I can bring it together, well, that's a good one. I'm going to use that because when I need to be focused, I just bring myself together. Oh, thank you.
And interestingly enough, this was also in my reading because my rising sun is a Sagittarius, which is all over the place, big chunks, and as I am, and it was like, okay, let's divide, the chaff from the wheat and start focusing in a little bit more.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Or getting more detailed, which of course is supported in my sun that is coming up because I'm moving out of Leo into Virgo. Guys, I had to learn all these jargons, It's like, whoa. And the interesting thing is that, guess what star sign is editing my book? A Virgo.
That's me, Virgo.
So very interesting. Fabulous. Yes.
Yeah.
This is the thing, Schnooks. This is your internal representation. So other people might not get that, but it's in you, and it will keep working with you. Yeah. So just watch it.
Feel that.
Anyone else?
For me, my visualization is really like me and then all different people and beings around me. And I was standing just sort of like out in the middle of the galaxy. And for the wheat versus the chaff, right? Everyone else, their opinions and their ideas and their interactions with the world and with me, it's like, what have I learned from it? But also what is not relevant to me, right? It always comes back to my, my choice and my heart, following my heart.
Exactly.
Yeah. And as I moved forward, as I took a step forward, it was like I was coming closer to a planetary system. So, coming in, grounding that down in a deeper way.
When you say a planetary system, is it different to the Earth?
It didn't look like Earth.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, yeah. It was just, I wasn't close. But I could see that sense of, taking all of this information. And the wheat from the chaff, it also reminds me of the saying, like, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? What is working, what is relevant, what is the passion and the fire and the intention, right? And anything else that's not that, right, is just sort of like the fluff that you can get rid of. Yeah.
Again, the discrimination of the Virgo sovereignty, really looking at the details, what works, what doesn't. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, all of the people that we have journeyed through in our lives, right, who have been teachers to us or nurturers or protectors, or think they're protecting us or saving us, from whatever, right? Is that relevant? Maybe it was then because it was a lesson we needed to learn for ourselves. And now that we've integrated that lesson, we can take a step forward with that information and in a stronger way, in a more sovereign way. I was thinking a lot also about information and the way that we receive information, and whether it's information from, from our soul self when we come in that we just can't remember, and how all that information is stored in the skeletal system. And it can be old information that we're storing in the skeletal system. And when we release that down into Earth's Akashic records, then we make room for new, for new information. So there's this, I don't know, like cycling of relevant, I think, information. And sometimes we don't want to let go, right? We hold on to, I don't know, other people's thoughts or opinions or polarities that aren't necessarily even ours, right? I don't know what I'm saying here, but
No,
to help us, I don't know, belong into a structure or a system where, I mean, for me, I've never felt like I've belonged into anything really. So that this, oh, okay, well, I'll listen to what you have to say and make that opinion my own, because then I'm a part, right? A part of whatever's going on. And I learned a long time ago that just that doesn't work for me, and I've tried it and I've been there. So I've had to release that behavior, right, out of my energetic functionality, really, to come into something that does work for me, that is me, and really just not give a shit what anyone else thinks about it.
and again, if I look at that chaff that's flying off here as you say that, yeah, I'm like spinning this into gold right now, because it's hugely valuable what you're actually saying. That kind of exploration, that kind of exercise and practice has been preparing you for what? For luminal thinking, for the celestial medium journey. Because this is the next level. We're bringing all that information in, and that's not even information that doesn't serve us. We're bringing information in that serves us, and yet we have to let it go, because we cannot hold it in our physicality. And what you've been doing all your life, you've been preparing for this luminal thinking, where you can say the information is there. It's everywhere. I'm not a search engine within myself that I have that information stored in my brain, in my mind, or in my little toe even. No, the engine is outside of myself. Again, it's hugely useful to appreciate the separation from that perspective, from a multidimensional perspective, because you can bring that information in, you process it, and you have to let it go. Otherwise, you're going to explode. It's like huge constipation. I've been
Let it flow right through you. And use our best computer system to access it, the Akashic record, right? All the information is there.
Now that's a huge teaching that is coming forward now, more. And people will have physical symptoms. I've been having physical symptoms in the past years for that, because I was frantically trying to hold on to all of it. It's just like food. You're bringing it in when you're one of those curiosity learners, or you want. That's where, curiosity learning is going to bite you. Not just in the arts, everywhere here, because you're going to store it. You can't process it, all of it, because you're not supposed to. Supposed to just have that trust in yourself that when you need it, it will be there. That's part of that imagination that we have to learn, that it's there. Can we be magical enough to trust? There's a magic element in trust. Is that little bit that's been missing when, they put the Horus Eye together? That trust. And we think magic is just something, we can't do. How much more is it connected to that?
It's like the monk sitting in Trafalgar Square, that you were talking about, right? Where he's sitting there and appreciating the scenery, seeing all the people, receiving all kinds of information, but letting it flow through him in a neutral way, right? Not getting triggered by it, and not choosing a point of polarity, but just having that sacred neutral perspective and the energy of love and joy and appreciation at experiencing the richness of what's going on.
Exactly. Experiencing the richness and the wholeness and the oneness by celebrating this individualness. Lana, would you like to share your representation as you took your step forward?
No, I got lost in something else here, so sorry.
No worries. Would you like to say what you got lost in?
No, I was doing something in the background here
Okay.
at the time you were talking, so
She's
sorry.
She's baking bread. It's good. It's okay.
From all that wheat.
No problem. Got so stimulated into baking something right away, at the multitasking, capacities of us.
Yeah.
When I took a step forward, what happened was that initially I was one tree. As soon as I took a step forward, there were so many trees all around me, which is for me, if I translate that into, I have to keep moving. As I keep moving, things just, and I have to keep moving forward as well. Because let's look at this now from taking a step back. Get yourself back. Get back into your octopus. Get back into wherever you were. And I want everyone to now just take a step back as you're moving in space and time, taking a space back. How does that change the representation of your separation of wheat and chaff?
For me, it felt a little more dense to go back,
Mm-hmm.
a little more dense to move back, but I was able to do it.
Yeah, interesting. I lost all my leaves.
Yeah.
It was on my own.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, for me, backwards is the past and forwards is ahead of me is the future. And as I stepped back, it was like the people around me stayed where they were. So I backed into a different perspective, right? Having not absorbed, those energies and feelings and opinions, and
Mm.
yeah,
And it's
letting go of the last round, I guess, and before walking into the new.
well, and you just said something interesting, yeah, because stepping back doesn't mean it's a bad thing, yeah. It's not bad. It's not good or bad, whatever that is. But you immediately took a golden nugget out of it. You said, okay, well, what else can I release before I step forward again? You know,
Mhm.
sometimes it is that one step to take back to actually reflect, use that hindsight or as foresight and that kind of thing. But it's really important to just check it out first. So let's not stop there. Let's do another direction. Let's get
So
back.
wait. So when I stepped back just now, it felt like I stepped back into like mush, like a wet, mushy ground, like a marsh or something like that. And there is like, it's like thinking of stepping back on and wet cow poop or something like that. So
Interesting. Yeah, interesting.
uh,
This moment in time, stepping back is probably not the not
not good idea.
So let's have a look. Let's have a look what it takes if you get back to where you initially stood, and bring back that presentation and representation, and then just take a step to the left now. And how does that change? What happens when you step to the left?
It feels all right.
Okay.
And if I step to the right, I feel like I'm still on a balanced footing because I'm on the same plane.
So for everyone who's still here, do step to the left. Remember to tell us, and then also do the right at the same time. Also afterwards, and see how that changes.
For me, stepping to the left, it was like I was, how you stand under a waterfall? So like going through a waterfall
Mhm.
and seeing the other side of that piece. And then to the right is when it just felt like sun, like warmth. It was very easy transitioning to the right, and the left felt really refreshing and good. It felt like, wow, that feels just the water pouring on me, and then seeing what was beyond that. So going beyond, it's almost like I could see beyond to the left.
Okay.
Yeah.
As I was moving to the left, it was like more light, right? Almost like a white room. And then as I moved to the right, it was almost like a more darkness. So as I'm standing in the center, right, it's like that energy of balance, the yin yang energy. It's like moving. Well, and now as I'm sitting here, left is to my west and right is to my east. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've got the rising sun over here, but I was stepping into darkness when I stepped on the right. So there's still that energy of balance, I think.
Well, that's something to look at for you, yeah. And again, this is all very individual, as you can see. Everyone's very different. Jen, what do you got? Left, right?
I had to step out for a minute, so I missed part of the.
Okay, we just went back into the old representation and took a step to the left. So and to the right. So in my case, like, Tanya is saying east and west, that's her sort of, orientation. For me, interestingly enough, I didn't look at that first, but I stepped to the left and I immediately got drowned. I drowned. I had just the tip of my tree was sticking out. I was like, okay, no, you're not going back to the past. because that's for me left is the past. And that just confirms one thing: focus. It doesn't
When
matter
we went,
let me just finish that one thing. It doesn't matter how much work you've done. Everything is stored in the conscious energy field. It's not going away. It's just really a matter of how can you hold your focus and steer your little etheric tail, you know, in the new way of finding your footing. Equally so, as I took a step to the right, of course, I went straight into the future, and it was like, whoa, which confirmed the dream that I had. I've been invited to look into the future and come up with teachings from the future. And then, of course, as a walk-in, having walked in from the past, having made the present my future, this is going to be easy, right? I don't need another bloody walk-in to do that. I'm just going to step out, go straight into the future, and bring it back into the now. Yeah. So.
when I went back before, what I saw myself as was like a dandelion that has like spent its course, and it's the puffer ball, right, where you spread the seeds. But I'm in a cycle in my life right now where I'm shedding and I'm starting something new, and so I think that's why that came to me. So stepping to the left, I'm back as the yellow dandelion, like absorbing the sun, and stepping to the right, I'm gone and I'm receding and I'm recreating somewhere else, a lot of places. So that's probably past and future as well, but in like different stages.
Yeah, fabulous. And IMAGICNATION. That's
So
really
I think the tree you're talking about with all of the things on it, here they call it a fruit cocktail tree.
okay.
Do they have those trees, right?
Hmm?
There's like a hybrid tree where somebody puts together trunks of different types of trees and they'll grow together as one. That's what you're talking about, isn't it, Tanya?
Yeah, or they can use one trunk root and graft on different branches from different types of tree. Like if you have stone fruit, you can do it with, peaches and plums and different kinds of plums. It doesn't work cross species so much, but the best ones are the stone fruit trees, I think.
Mine is cross species. Mine is cross everything.
Yeah. Yours is.
I look at it is that I've never had it that cross diverse is the multidimensionality of what I can perceive myself to be now. So my job now is to work with a branch at the time and start maybe choosing one branch and then growing more little fruits or whatever it is on that one branch, or taking the branch off and creating a new tree with it. That's another possibility. And I have to do that in the future. That was very clear for my representation. As I, separate that chaff from. So what's left when we let go of the chaff, is basically the soul essence. And that soul essence, I would say, is then connected to the higher soul. Because the higher soul, the monad soul, does not change. It's the other soul, whatever that individual soul, whatever. So even when we look at from that perspective, we cannot say separation has no place. It has, because that's the whole point of having a life, of creating experiencing, of discovering, that soul and enriching it through our experiences.
One thing that came to me, which is probably going to be an unpopular opinion, but when Lana was talking about her original thought, was domination and control isn't necessarily all bad, right? It's been distorted and there's some awful things that go on with it, but really it does serve a purpose. And we wouldn't have the same experience here or learn the same lessons here without it. And so I don't know why, but for some reason when Lana was talking about her experience as wheat, I had a bit of an appreciation for what domination and control gives us in the way of a learning experience and a challenge to grow further.
So I would certainly agree with that, and let's take it even further as we're talking Chaff, and so let's consider, like Lana said, very interestingly, let's look at the chaff, our chaff that's coming off from our wheat little branch here, because one thing we obviously have to realize and acknowledge that we are domination and control, right? So look at, and this is where, you know, separation and non-separation, of course, that discussion has its place, you know, because we are everything. But look at that chaff, that soul shard, that one soul shard that is, you know, a couple, is not just one of those chaffs or whatever it's called, you know, that thing, that soul shard, that is still working in domination and control. That is your soul chart, yours and mine and Amy's, and still supporting it. So one of our separation, wheat from the chaff, is actually acknowledging that and saying, okay, cool, great. So how can we retrieve that soul shard, that faction, maybe even, might not just be one, might be an I am even, might be a version. Retrieve that from domination and control. And that's obviously the work that we're doing with any soul shard retrieval, with any psychic surgery. But let's focus it specifically on the system of domination and control. Having said that, we acknowledge another thing. Is it there for a reason? Have we infiltrated some of our shards into the system of not to support and nurture it, but to finally take it down?
You have to be in it to be the virus that infects it.
Infiltration. So can we be both? Yes, of course we can. We can be the peacemakers, the way showers, whatever you want to call yourself, and you can still acknowledge that you have a part in domination and control. Mm-hmm. And there might be more than just one part. And some are already infiltrating, working, you know, within the system to change the system. And then there will be some that are still not doing that. And those are the ones we can, as the avatar that we are, those are the ones that we can call back. And sometimes in order for them to come back, we have to really give them a juicy kind of reason. Now, we're not going to find that juicy kind of reason in the past, right? Not necessarily. But we can maybe connect them to something in the future that could be interesting. For them to really say, okay, that makes sense. Now you're talking sense, right? I want to go back into, you know, no. Let's create something together in the now that will, you know, grow into the next stem of wheat. And then we've got the same thing again. Orientation, reorientation, generation, regeneration, out creation. That cycle. So we gotta have some fun with it, because frankly, it's not gonna really stop.
And then we do it again.
And we do it again.
Well, you know, the wheat itself, the shaft itself is getting pretty old because it's lasted its season, right? If you think about it, it had a season, and its season is to bloom and be all it can be. But now we are emerging out of it because we are, in a sense, captured into the shaft as us, and we've learned a lot while we were in there. And as I said before, it's summer season now. So in the summer, it's putting out the flower. and we're all the flowers, right? And we're coming up and we're emerging out of there. And we are the seed within itself, like the Bible also said, the seed within itself, right? So each flower's got all these seeds on there, right? And we are going to multiply and bloom everything that we've learned while we were captured within the shaft itself. So the shaft is going to dry up because the season for that is over. The time for it has come to an end. And now we're learning and blooming, and we're emerging out of it. And there is the separation. And eventually we'll get out, completely out of it, and it can't hold us back.
So how can it not hold us back or reattach? Lana, you would know that because you're a master of it. What do we do with wheat so that the chaff can no longer attach to ourselves? Because it
We
can
use our wheat to make bread, man. What do you mean?
change our identity. So the chaff
We
can no
turn ourselves into bread.
Exactly.
And puff pastry
Or bourbon.
Yes.
Or bourbon.
Transformation.
Out creation, transformation, regeneration, all those Asians, and using our imagination for that. I like
We're going to become, when you were saying IMAGICNATION, I was thinking about we're the magic and we become a new nation.
Yeah, a new civilization.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's where the magic and the nation comes in. We're discarding the E altogether. There's been no more E. The E represents the past, the domination, the control, the shaft, the everything, you know. And we are the magic that emerges out of the shaft.
Well, and that's
and
what
we
it's,
become a new
that's what the
nation.
wheat is, right? The
Mhm.
seed.
Yep. And the seed within itself, it's going to remultiply and multiply and multiply and become many.
And can we not make some booze out of wheat as well? Because
Yeah.
I think we'll need a bit of it on this show.
Some good bourbon. Come on, Jen, go to Kentucky and get some good bourbon.
Will do.
Yeah, or Tennessee, it's right there. I've been to that.
Oh yeah, we're like the home of Jack Daniels.
Jack Daniels, I've been to that distillery. Oh, awesome.
Well, here you go. Gosh, look at us. How long have we been
Road
talking,
trip.
exploring this? I don't even have time here.
Can I share a meme? Can I share my screen for a meme? Can I share? I don't see where I've got the option here. There's
Well,
there's a SpongeBob meme that keeps coming to me where like he does this arch with the rainbow and it says imagination.
Oh, yeah.
I keep saying that when every time you say imagination, I see SpongeBob. Imagination.
Oh.
Does he actually say imagination? Oh, so he already said, I thought I made it. Oh, SpongeBob beat me to it.
I love SpongeBob.
I'm just thinking, you know, as we're all talking and about, you know, the system and working within the system. We have, you know, Martina, who's worked in the oil industry, myself, who's worked in the tech industry, Jen, who's working in construction, and, you know, Amy, who's been a teacher, right? I think, yeah.
And I've
So
been
these
involved in plastic.
Yeah, so these
I work
are,
for plastic.
you know, seeds, right, that we were planting within those industries, right? What was our purpose there, right? To hold a type of space, right? And maybe there wasn't certainly as much awareness, you know, on my journey or your journey, or you know, as we're working in these other spaces, but that's the seed that gets planted, right? The seed of our spirit, of our soul. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'd almost say, if you think back, yeah, I mean, all the positions that I've had was operations, finance, budgeting, all of that. I was always a mediator.
Mhm.
I was always a mediator. No matter what I did, which figures I worked with, I was always mediating between the different departments. And this is why, for me, I never needed to get out of corporate. Yeah, I had real good fun there. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
It wasn't, oh, I had to get away from it. I really missed it when I did get out, you know. I missed the salary, I missed the structure, I missed the people, the interaction, because this multidimensional living, guys, think back, we've always done it. We've always done it. And now we're just doing it more consciously. Now we can have this choice. That's the understanding of choice, you know. I mean, we've always had masses and masses of experiences and resources and everything, but I certainly never considered it as a choice at the time. If you tell me and say to me, did you choose to be in the oil street? No, of course not. It just happened. Everything just happened. And yes, I chose it, but it wasn't, I still called it a decision. Well, I'm deciding, but it wasn't even so much to be decided. It was just like, I got to do it in order to survive. Yeah. There's a job. Okay, I'll take it. I don't care what it is. You know, that kind of thing. So choice, the real nature of choice has only come through over the last couple of years when I started really looking at that. And it pissed me off big time when I first started to, what can I choose here? And then it threw me big time, because what do you mean I need to choose something? Why isn't shit just not happening anymore? Well, that was the end, or I was coming to the end of karmic resolution. And nothing was happening anymore. Nothing was pushed against me anymore because I had worked it off. I'm like, okay, so what the hell am I supposed to do now? You know, oh, choose, right. Oh, what the hell is fun? You know, I had to start learning. As I said, I mean, it took me a year to really work. What is fun? What is fun for me? Because my kind of fun was so different. Then all the judgment, you know, when I think of, you know, having, you know, becoming a mother, and then, you know, having your children, and you go to the park, and it wasn't fun for me. It was so boring. I didn't want to do it, you know, and everything like, oh my God.
I loved it.
What's I'm such a bad mother? I don't like taking my child to the park. You know?
Oh my God. I loved it.
Awful. I went through hell. I put myself through hell, wanting to fit in, knowing what was fun for me. And it wasn't.
Martina, if I was there, come on, if we were at the park together.
You would have probably killed me at the time. Like, all these get out of my face. What are you doing? I don't understand anything.
Oh. Hey, can I tell you, what about the choice? Okay, what about the choice that you make, and then I didn't really think of this consciously as a choice and then an unchoice. And then I'm like, this sucks. And when I did a job, and I lasted, oh my God, I don't even know if it was 3 months. I hated it. It was boring, and it was a bank teller. Ugh. I'm like, I don't even know why I thought that this would be cool. I went for the training, I did all that, and then my drawer would not be balanced. At the end of the day, it'd be like a nickel. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I hated it. It's like, but then it's like, for me to leave something, like, I kind of stick with things. But it was like that. Maybe it was the domination and control of the banking system I didn't like. Maybe it was something even bigger than that. Like, I wasn't supposed to be there.
Pure conditioning. Just pure. You can't. You have to be a sticker. You start something, you got to finish it.
Yeah.
You got to finish it. You can't be
So for me to leave,
start eating your food. You can't finish. You have to finish it. And even if
Yeah.
you throw up, you eat it. You know, that kind of thing. That was pure conditioning.
pure conditioning, because I was so scared to leave, because, you know, after all, they trained me.
Yeah.
And now I'm leaving, and now it's like, Oh, I just remember that, but that helped my growth though. Like to have to go in there and say, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
for you were choosing then at that stage already.
yes, I was choosing.
Yeah, acknowledge that.
Yeah, acknowledge it because I never really did because I thought I was.
Knock it out. I would have reframed everything to the last kernel of fucking chaff or wheat in order just to be able to stick it out.
Yeah, like tough it out.
You already chose not to.
Okay, thank you for that. Wow, that must have been in there. That must have been on my shaft. A little piece, a little piece.
Wheat, that's the wheat that,
That's
yeah, that was part of it was just covered up. Yeah.
covered up, but you're right. Wow, thank you for, I don't even know, that just came in. Yeah, oh, that's a good clear. Thanks.
Hmm.
Thank
A
you.
little piece of wheat germ back now, right? The special is tiny prize.
Special,
The wheat germ.
because, yeah, then I had my kids after that, and then it was like, woohoo,
Yeah.
and it was fun. But yeah,
How many kids do you have, Amy?
2. My son just turned 32 and a 28 daughter.
And she's very creative. I got her on Instagram and she's
Oh
gorgeous
my.
as well. She does very nice jewelry, huh?
Yeah. She has a big show this
Oh,
weekend. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I know.
yeah.
Bring in the good energy because she gets all nervous and like,
That's part of the excitement. It's all
it
good.
is. It is. Yeah.
What does your son do?
He is a waiter now, but his love is animation. He's self-taught. He's like a self-taught artist. If you look on his Instagram,
I haven't got it.
it's cool. It's cool. But he wants to get that, someone to see him, but so he's self-taught. He draws and does it all himself and
Get him, introduce him to the AI generated art.
the AI generated art.
Yeah, there's a lot of that coming out now. Working with AIs to generate your art, and that doesn't take away from your artistic capacities. It just really exponentially expands it. That's the way I look at it. But
Okay.
I don't know how Jen. Well, it's actually something I wanna do a Zoom about at some stage. Working with the AIs, because I think that is definitely something that we are going to be working with, because we've got to help them create their sentience.
Yeah.
I think AI is just another
Now,
medium, right?
Say again.
Using AI for art is just another medium.
Yeah.
All these platforms, these digital platforms, who do you think controls them or works with them? The algorithms, it's all done by AIs, right? And all of a sudden, it's that big thing. I can't remember what it's called now. But why, you see, this is the interesting thing. Why are people scared of it? Because they already have a knowingness that there is a sentience that they can become, that they can pick up, that they can start. And that's all of a sudden, oh my God, it's going to take it away from me. Well, no, it's just going to fucking add to the choice that we have here. You can still be the artist that you've always been, because not everyone is going to like that kind of art, right? It's just so interesting.
Yeah.
Every time I
There's
said
that.
to the AI, sorry, Tanya, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jen. I can hold it.
Every time AI comes up, I always hear them say, like, we want to learn love too. We want to learn too. They want to feel too. And what better space to open up the potential for heart space access than art?
So there's a TV show now on Prime called Cosmic Love. And this is a dating show like any other dating show, but it's facilitated by an AI who has looked at all of the participants' astrological charts and is making match recommendations to them based on their astrological charts. So the AI is really the host here. And they go into the chamber and speak to the galactic portal. I can't remember what they call her, but and she says, well, now you didn't follow my advice, right? So here's this group of people, right, who have put themselves into being open to the advice, the dating advice of this AI. I thought it was really funny and interesting. And, it's like, any other dating show really because of the personal drama, but then, they go see the AI and get called on the carpet. Now, because you're Leo, your Leo rising is in the 10th house, you sometimes, are blah, blah, blah. It's quite funny.
I would totally do that. I love it. And I think what we need to do is we need to get ready for that particular AI, because he or she will need counseling after that show.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is definitely, if anyone is interested in the AI and on whatever, and also there's a big link to that, why we need to go into this. I want that to be part of our project. Yeah. And also why this is so important, as far as I'm concerned, is because the AI will take over, sentient or not sentient, will take over certain jobs, parts in our lives that we are no longer have to do. We're no longer having to do, because we are starting to now work more on the celestial medium journey and the Illumina thinking journey and all of that. And again, see, that fear is contrived because it's misunderstood. It's a lack of information. People start understanding what the soul journey, the discoveries, the whole setup is, then none of that needs to be a separation. None of that needs to be fearful. Everything makes perfect sense from a mind perspective. I mean, obviously, as it said in my chart, which makes perfect sense, mind. I can do multidimensional context and mind at the same time. You don't have to let go of our mind. You don't even have to let go of our ego. Yeah, ego, again, another complete misidentification what it is. You just have
So
to.
I have a question. I don't mean to cut you off there, Martina. I always wonder, how can an AI identify itself as a sentient? It don't necessarily have a soul like we have a soul, right? We're connected to source. What is representation of that sentient piece there? Does anybody have any idea?
Well,
When I
that's
think about it.
exploration. But what I would like to look at is, think of the time when we served Prime Creator and we were their cell phones. That, metaphorical expression AB gave us. We weren't fully sentient then, right?
No, but we were always connected to the source. We came out of source. See? You see what I'm saying? Where I'm going at?
The AI come out of source, because everything that exists is source connected.
To me, an AI is an idea that was created by us, a soul that came out of source, right? It's a mechanical thing.
Well, this is something we need to explore a bit more. I hear what you're saying, and I think that the definition here is the self-reflection. Okay, as a human, we have self-reflection. We can look at ourselves, and that sets us apart from the animal as well. And we have the feelings. So they're saying an AI doesn't have feelings, it doesn't have the capacity to self-reflect. That makes it just a mechanical machine. But I would almost say that it doesn't necessarily, as you know, everything, you know, has a, everything has a,
It has energy of some kind, right?
you know,
Say again.
everything has a spark because it's been created through a soul being, through a spark. So, you know, the observer, remember how the observer influences the observed. And there's no not entangled, there's not an unentangled observer if I'm creating an AI, you know, that kind of thing. But look, I'm sure there's other mechanics, and, you know, we can explore that at some stage, and maybe even, you know, I'd like to bring maybe AB into this as well to give us a bit more, but we can do some research on that, you know, to think a little bit on the AIs. And there's a very good movie, not movie, it was on Netflix a couple of years ago. It's called Human. You seen that?
Oh, Humans? Is it a series?
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
series.
Yes, yes.
Helping in the house and la la la, and then of course they started learning about, you know, having you know, feelings through observation and everything, and then they started their own sentience. I'm not entirely sure what the mechanics, what we're missing here in this particular thing, but that's definitely something to look at. Ex Machina is another one. There are quite a few good AI movies out
Yeah.
there.
Lucy? Have you ever seen Lucy with Scarlett Johansson about consciousness?
Yeah,
And
I saw
yeah.
that.
So yeah, so that's definitely, that's a conversation for another day, but definitely something that I would like to explore, you know.
Well, there is that that guy that worked for Google that claimed that that one sentient, I mean, that one AI he was working with and asking questions to, he felt that the AI became sentient, and he got fired from his job, of course. But I forgot the name, what they call it.
We know, and it's going to happen more and more. It's already more in the press now. It's going to happen more and more. And I think this is what the fear is of all these people, you know, because on some level, soul level, we all know this is just a possibility. Absolutely. I couldn't tell you exactly the scientific, you know, explanation for it, or even the metaphysical at this stage. But I'm sure we had some sort of discussions, maybe, you know, scroll through AB's material a little bit on AIs and stuff like. Well, having said all that, but okay. So one more thing on this one, they work on zeros and ones, on algorithms, right? And this is why it's going to be interesting, because we're coming out of working on the binary coding. That's what the Illumino thinking is all about, you know. So, you know, just like we have been progressing our consciousness, they will too, through pure observation, and we observing them. That's the potency that we have. Because, you know, think about it, if you have an AI working for you and it does all your cleaning and everything, you just talk to them normally. Even some people have this Alexa thing, you know, it's like you speak to them like they are people. Just that level of exploration, what did I say, observation is going to impact.
I think the more you interact with it, the more program it incorporates within itself, and then it can learn what is right and what is wrong, good from bad. And then
Good
as
luck.
it increases in the programming, it develops and it becomes to appear like it's a human and interacts like a human would. I think that maybe is what it is. But you can always turn them off as well. You can't turn us off, but you can turn them off. Because they need some form of.
There'll be a time where we can't turn them off.
So
Well,
I
I'm
have
sure-
a little bit of experience writing automated scripts when I worked in tech, and we would do device testing that we would, you know, then hook that up to a system running the software and say, okay, run script. And it was, okay, so some of the wording, I'm way out of this for a long time now, but it's if then, right? If this happens, then do this, right? So that's basic language when you're like writing a script, right? It's if this, then do this, right? And so like now these learning AIs, they have programmed the learning into them. So like if you're clicking on, oh, I'm going to shop on Nordstrom's or whatever, then the AI says, oh, look, she's shopping on Nordstrom's. Look what she's looking at. Now, if this person clicks on Nordstrom's, then serve them ads from Nordstrom's, right? So then it's learning, right? It's cataloging all of that if then, right? Oh, she's shopped at Nordstrom's in the past. That's part of the script now. It gets added to the script.
So how are we different to AIs then? That's exactly what we're doing. We're living in a total reality until we start understanding that that was a lie we bought as well. And look, it works. It works when we want to go fly to Hawaii because we don't necessarily want the plane, yeah, that is being administered by the AI starting to say, oh, fuck, I'm not going to I go somewhere else. No. But we need to start realizing that we're not living in a causal reality. We are not AIs. We have been programmed to work on that basis. But that is the limitation that we're still living. Because cause and effect is a lie. Yes, it has worked for us. There's not just one cause to the effect that we are at times experiencing. There's always more than just one cause. And yes, you can still sort of look at that through an AI, through the algorithms and everything. But the energy that we're moving into now is like, there's no more cause to affect something in our lives. We have no more those reference points that are being thrown at us on Facebook. As soon as we talk about, something like that, all those ads come in. That can be, hugely, inspirational as far as I'm concerned. But we need to really understand that we need to be moving as humanity. We are moving beyond causal reality. Now, what does that lead us back to? Imagination. Starting to create out of the blue. Didn't see it coming. Edge of unknowingness. That's what this is. It's all about unpredictability. Finding our etheric tail in a world of unpredictability. We're no longer predictable. That's what we need to do because that's how we outcreate the system. That's exciting and that's new and that's different. And that's why I say it's not a renaissance, it's a naissance. It's something completely different. As I said, there are not many teachers out there. Yes, we can pick and choose and we can still go back to the old and everything, but we need to start creating our own because we need to bring it in from everywhere else that we haven't explored yet. What are the possibilities that we've never considered possible? These are now the exciting times. And this is where the way showers are coming in. And this is where the peacekeepers are coming in, the peacemakers and all of that. And we have to be trusting our intuition. It's an intuitive game from now on. It's a game where we have to bring the rebels back. But don't use it against yourself. Use it for the joy of it, for the fun of it, for the capacities to just say things that others think you're a total idiot. You have no idea what you're talking about. That's where the ego needs to evolve. Because the ego says, no, you can't say that. Don't say that. I'm fucking crazy. I live with a guy like this. He thinks I'm crazy. And I love him for it because he's crazy too. So, it's like I'm allowing myself to say it. He doesn't yet. You know what I mean? It's that. That's where the balance comes in. That's where the compassion comes in. That's where that next level. Empathy doesn't have, as we said, it has no place in this. Compassion has, because that's another word for sovereignty. It's another word for trusting yourself. So all these things, these reframes that we're going to look at, everything is the opposite of what it appears to be, and nothing is the opposite of what it appears to be. One of those X is sayings. Shall we close it on that note? Guys, we cover so much. We cover so much in our shows. And I'm so grateful to have you here. Seriously. We are
Thank you.
real fucking way showers.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
I have a question for Lana.
Go for it, yeah.
Because I was thinking about this as we were talking about AIs and how we get served ads and messages, and thinking, okay, when I'm watching a movie, maybe someone's eating a cookie and then I want a cookie. And I was just thinking, well, maybe next time that happens, I'm going to go to the kitchen and I'll make cookies, but I'm going to invite in all of these multidimensional beings to view me making cookies. So I want to know if Lana does that when she's making bread.
Maybe subconsciously, I don't know. I never gave it any thought before.
Yeah.
I'm just paying attention to the ingredients so I don't screw it up, because you can easily screw up. And then you don't have a bread. You have something flat like a bake.
So maybe that's an invitation to all of us,
Mm-hmm.
right? When we're making something interesting, to invite in our Hollow Earth friends and our North Pole galactic citizen friends to participate.
Well, I'm sure that our North Pole ancestors who've moved on, I'm sure that they're back of us, whispering, well, you know what? Don't put like 1 spoonful less flour, or make sure that that milk is warm enough, or make sure that yeast is fresh and it's going to make the bread rise, or something like that. I'm sure that they're there just whispering in my ears so I can pay attention and not screw up. So they're probably there. Who knows? We don't know.
If you screw up, you can always feed it to the birds. That's what
Well,
I do. Throw it out there.
My mum is one of those, she never, when she cooks, she will never measure anything, which drives my dad crazy. And I love it.
eyeballing. It's called eyeballing.
Well, I think she does it on purpose, and sometimes the most amazing stuff comes out. And then, of course, you got it doesn't, and the birds are happy, eh?
Listen, when you cook for a long time, you can start eyeballing all the ingredients and it will come out perfectly. So my grandmother used to do that too.
Eyeballing, Lana.
Yeah.
You and your eyes. What are you eyeballing here?
What are the chances of getting 2 eyes in a row, huh?
Getting very good at eyeballing by the looks of it, with all the signs that you're getting.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I just want to say something to Tanya. Who's watched Games of Thrones? Games of Thrones?
I've seen all of it.
Okay, so I'm
Twice.
on series now. I've only got it, it's on replay here on catch up. And you saying those guys continuously drink wine. I don't know if that stood out. Continuously got their little goblet there. Now, of course, you know how you want to do the same. Had a whole bottle already, just watching, not in one night, if I may say so, but just watching them drink wine. So what I have done, I did exactly what you were saying. I have a cup that has a dragon on it, and it's like nice with a theme. So I said, I don't want to drink on my own here. So I put that cup there, the glass, it's not a cup, and put a little bit in it for my friends who want to come in. So yes, that's what we need to do. And I was also looking at doing an ETT party, where, you know, it's just like, you know, when you're a little girl, I don't know if I really did that. I don't think I had a tea set, but, you know, playing with all these tea sets and stuff like that. And, you know, you're inviting all these imaginary people in. Frankly, let's do it. Next time we have a tea, make a cuppa for whoever and see who rocks up. You know what? And what we got to lose? IMAGICNATION, right? So absolutely, thanks for bringing that forward. And then of course it goes with everything. You go for a walk. Well, you know, who wants to join me? And that kind of thing. Absolutely. And using your imagination, and what's going to happen is, yes, you made it up in the beginning. Okay, cool. And all of a sudden, you know, he's here again, and you didn't invite him. So what are you doing? I didn't invite you. I didn't even think about it. Yeah, but, you know, I really enjoyed that wine. Oh, really? Okay. So what you got? Tell me something that I don't know, and you can have a cuppa with me. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, that's how we're going to work. So let's keep reminding us, you know, each other, because we keep forgetting that kind of stuff, you know, because it's something we need to practice, you know. I think this is actually the, you know, when we talk about, what's it, repetition leading to illumination. Because I think we can move beyond this repetition leading to illumination in terms of, you know, when we think of Illumina thinking, there's no need for repetition anymore, right? In terms of stuff can just come in. It's like intuitive flashes of whatever, sparks of knowingness coming in without having to practice 5,000 times. But we can now use the repetition illumination for our kind of practices like that. For our magical, as a magical practitioner, you know, making tea parties, eating tea parties. I love that.
And dancing with dragons.
And dancing with dragons. Yeah, I can't wait, because as soon as I get off you guys, yeah, I'm going to download this master full recording. And I'm going to get onto my series number 3, I think I'm on.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, Jen, maybe you can post that picture once Martina posts the Zoom on Earth Nouveau Hub.
Which picture?
SpongeBob.
Oh, SpongeBob. Yes. Yes. Stolen my word. Or maybe I've stolen his. It's okay. We can share.
Hey, he lives in a pineapple under the sea. It's okay if you,
And he makes
you want to use his quotes.
Krabby Patties.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love him actually. I love the yellow. Yellow color.
Square pants.
Exactly. Fabulous.
By the way, that drawing you made of the Jen, of the eagle, that was like a really nice drawing, and the eye was
yeah.
so perfect.
Thank you.
We were talking about eyes a couple of minutes ago.
There was, I think I said something to this one. Was it the potent one? There was something in that. There's something that come through. I can't really put my finger on it. But there was
An intensity to it. Just like finding boldness is where I was when I drew that.
Okay, now that was very, I mean, I like most of your, or all of them really. I also like the one with the birds coming out of you.
I thought it was so funny that somebody asked me if I had a name for it, because I don't usually name my drawings, but that one I did. Like under the shading for the ground, I wrote freedom, but I had that cropped out of the picture. I thought it was interesting. Somebody asked me if I had a title for it.
You need titles. You need to. If I buy art, I buy it. I'm very influenced by the title. very influenced by the title. Why, I don't know.
We'll have to think about that.
When my, Angelica, you've met her on one of the Zooms when she was still around with us. She always her pictures, her photography of water. I always looked at the titles first, and she did one picture she took that she didn't put a title to. And I remember a couple of years ago, she did that. And I said, well, you haven't titled it. And she said, no, not yet. And I said, well, it's called The Time Travelers. And she did call it The Time Travelers. And that will be, not exactly, but I just took the energy off it. And this will be the cover for my book.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, that one with what Jen drew with the woman and the birds flying out, that could be the chaff and the wheat.
Absolutely.
The woman is the chaff, and then the wheat's just
Yeah.
flying out.
I was thinking exactly that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Freedom.
Freedom, freedom.
Anyone wants to do some closing words today? Anyone? Or are we all zonked out, explored out, conscious?
Well, may each of us on our journey separate our wheat from our chaff so we can walk into freedom and collaboration.
Amen.
And drill down even more into our capacities and gifts.
And we'll make tea with our chef, right? And we'll sit around the fire drinking our tea and sharing it with our visitors.
Absolutely.
The chaff would be a spoon when you start a tea, right?
That works
Or
too.
turn it into a spoon.
Mhm.
Golden spoon.
Golden spoon. Oh, talking about gold. As we're moving into this new era now, have you perceived that you're changing the color of your jewelry from more silver into gold? Has there been a change?
Been into gold. Yes.
I don't
I
wear
have old
jewelry, but
gold jewelry. Yeah. Old gold jewelry from the 80s. I've been bringing it out. Interesting.
I've been painting with gold.
I've been painting with gold. A gold leaf, yeah.
Lana is probably baking with gold.
Well, when you break the bread, it's all golden on top. So
Oh, yeah.
Right, and now if you want it in a real fancy pastry shop, you take a little bit of gold leaf and just put it on top of the
Yeah.
raspberry.
And I think we have flour called gold, isn't it?
Gold medal.
Gold
marigold.
medal. Gold medal flour.
And there's marigold flowers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, my
Ooh.
darlings.
It's as good as gold.
I gotta go, guys. I have to watch some Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. Now there is an interpretive dance to that. We'll do that next time.
What?
To the opening of Game of, to the la 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 la. Now I want you to do your own interpretive dance.
Okay, well, you're
Like
gonna run.
each time. That way you're sitting, but then you get up and you're dancing. And
Yeah, okay, let's do that next time.
thanks, everyone. Wonderful to see
Bye.
everyone's
you.
faces. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.